I know some of you are disappointed, and I am too a little bit, that nothing happened down at the baseball winter meetings in Nashville. 3 days and very little movement. And, there weren't really a lot of big splashes down there, but we'll get to what happened. We'll wrap up day 3 and the final day of the baseball winter meetings down in Nashville. See if there's any Brewer news, anything we could just grab a hold of. All that coming up next year on this edition of Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, we can say that Corbin Burnes is still a member of the Milwaukee Brewers. Our general manager, Matt Arnold, says he's laid the groundwork for some moves, possibly. A lot of that out there, which is, I guess, to be expected at the resort down there. The Brewers didn't do anything in the Rule 5 draft. Those are some of the headlines, but we're going to get into some of these things. What happened with the Brewers today? And also they're reportedly interested in Connor Falefa, the New York Yankee utility infielder. For that, we use with the Rangers. Well, we'll get to all this coming up. Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Thank you, everybody. Found us along here during the baseball winter meetings. We wish we had some better news and good news and stuff to talk about as far as, wheels and deals, but nothing has happened. Really, but we're going to get to some things here about, with our favorite baseball team, the local 9, the Milwaukee Brewers. But follow us along Google, Spotify, Apple. We're on all the major downloads. And, of course, go to our YouTube page, search Locked On Brewers. Go to that search button there. Go Locked On Brewers, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell. It's going to alert you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. And of course, follow me on Twitter. I better put that up there for you folks watching us on YouTube. My little banner up there. There it is. Chuck Freeman, FREIMUND. Yeah, the baseball winter meetings back in the day. Okay, if I can go old school on you, that's where the moves were made. Man, the baseball winter meetings, wherever they were, man, there were big splashes, and that was where everyone descended because something was going to happen at the baseball winter meetings with your team, our team, the Milwaukee Brewers. There was going to be something that was going to go on down there. And then for years, it just kind of died in the 2000s. It just kind of died. And baseball's brought it back a little bit. But still, there wasn't a lot of, Major League Baseball wants news to happen down there. They want to stay in the news cycle, much like the NBA is. Because everybody's talking about the NBA 12 months a year, NFL certainly, and Major League Baseball used to be that way, where people would talk about the hot stove league and what are we going to do here or there, and we still do. We still talk about it with our teams, yes. But other sports have stepped it up and have become year-round sports. It's just not baseball. You old schoolers out there, baseball used to be one of those sports where we talked about baseball year-round. And we didn't talk about basketball in the summer. We didn't talk about football in February. But now we are. We're talking about these sports 12 months a year. And baseball kind of has fallen behind a little bit, the other two major sports. And baseball would love to hear some, blockbuster deals made other than the New York Yankees getting Soto, which, disgusts me. But, we'll touch on that a little bit later on. I guess the news of the day, two things. Corbin Burnes is still a member of the Milwaukee Brewers. The reports out there, according to John Heyman, that the reports are that if you follow this, Heyman says the rivals of the Milwaukee Brewers say that Burnes will be moved. Heyman's not saying, the Brewers are saying that Burnes is going to move. Heyman says that the rivals. So I'm expecting the Cubs, who's ever chirping over the Cubs or the Reds or the Cardinals, telling Heyman, hey, they're dealing, they're wheeling and dealing. They're looking for something for Corbin Burnes. So, and Heyman's a trusted guy, and again, some of these guys throw stuff up and see if it sticks or not. other guys, they're wrong all the time. But Heyman, he does a good job. But he says right now, rivals are saying there's a decent chance that Burns gets moved, according to the Brewer rivals, and I assume those are the teams in the division. But for now, Corbin Burnes is a Milwaukee Brewer, and we'll enjoy him and maybe get him as the opening day starter if the Brewers don't. I saw some packages, some proposals for packages out there. Just, fans, media throwing stuff off the wall. I saw one where there was a 5-player prospect deal with the LA Dodgers. I mean, this was just speculation, getting 5 players in return for Burns, and, including 2 of the Dodgers' top 10 prospects. And I'd be down with something like that. I really would. Just keep restocking that farm system. I would like a veteran in return, but if we got, some really great prospects, I'd be good with that. I would be good with that. But I also, I'm also okay with keeping Burns and keeping him for until middle of the season. And if you're not in the pennant race, okay, if you don't get off to that good start, you're not in the pennant race, and then deal him then. And you might be able to, get some team, Burns might have a good year, and you might be able to get some teams high prospects. That used to be the old move when a great pitcher was out there. Teams would give away 3 or 4 of their prospects for the guy, and maybe you get something for Corbin Burns. There's some desperation. There's teams out there. There's owners that are in desperation mode. Not that the Milwaukee Brewers should be. My gosh, when's the last time we won a World Series? Never. So we're not in desperation mode, but there's like the New York Jets in football, desperation move. They trade for Aaron Rodgers, give up draft picks. But yeah, I would keep Corbin until, I'd keep him. And if you're not in the race middle of the season, trade him. Trade him if you're not in a race by the All-Star break. And if you're in the race, you kept him for the whole season, that's not the worst possible thing. Okay? You'd get, a compensatory pick for that. But when you lose him to free agency because you're not signing him, I think we all know that. So we'll see. I think it still remains to be seen, but I have a feeling Corbin will get dealt. Will it be tomorrow? No, but I think that's on top of Matt Arnold's things to do here in the offseason. Kiner, Lafifa, the shortstop of the Yankees, utility guy, good defense, can't hit, 6 home runs, batted .242 last year. The Brewers are reportedly in the running for him. 28 years old, one of the younger free agents out there. He's a guy to have on your roster as a utility guy. Okay. Is he an impact player? No. And this team, for God's sakes, this team needs impact players. The Kiner, Falifa, those guys, a utility guy. Yeah, if I'm looking for the final parts to, fill in, the Owen Millers of the world to kind of fill in spots for me. And what's wrong with Owen Miller? Is this guy any better than Owen Miller? But I know this guy, Falifa, is really good defensively, but still, and the Brewers pride themselves on defense. If you haven't caught on to that, pitching and defense is the way we're going these days. But yeah, if we sign him, is that gonna? He's just a piece, but you need bigger pieces. You need impact players. I talked to a friend of mine today, and he goes, Chuck, I agree with you on the podcast. The Brewers just nickel and diming and, trying to get all these rehab projects and trying to find lightning in the bottle. Yeah, I know. I get that. It gets old. It does. And, they're in the running for this guy as a free agent, but you got to do better than that. You need impact players. You need a couple of splash moves. Sure, you have to fortify the farm system, but you have to have a couple of splash. This team needs big splash moves. It does. It does, because we've gotten worse in the offseason. We've gotten worse in the offseason. Chuck Freeman here, Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Good to have you along here on Locked On Brewers. The show is brought to you in part by Jase Jase Medical. I know when it comes to sports, we escape the crazy realities of real life, but we can talk about preparation now, whether it's extended travel, bracing for a major weather event, limiting yet another supply shortage. We got supply shortages in this country. We know that. We got you covered, my friend. Thanks to the partners at Jase Medical. Life-saving antibiotics, a long list of daily medications that can be ordered in a 1-year supply. ED generics like Cialis or Viagra. Jase Medical has got the Jase case. The Jase case, a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, UTIs, respiratory, skin infections, among others. This stuff could happen to any of us anytime. That's why you need to get on with jasemedical.com. Complete your physician encounter. It'll be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and their medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to be prepared as it is today. Remember the Jase case. That's a cool thing. And, of course, if you go to their website, go to Jase Medical, JASEmedical.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your purchase. We've had people tell us about this, and this has saved the day, especially, for people who might not have insurance or anything like that. This has saved the day for some people out there, and that's good to hear. We hear about that stuff all the time. So go to jasemedical.com, JASEmedical.com. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. We're coming right back. We'll talk a little bit about the Rule 5 draft, more on the new deals. Josh Hader might be going to another team. Looks like it anyway, doesn't it? Victor Caratini did. We'll get to all that coming up next here on Locked On Brewers. Welcome back to Locked On Brewers. Chuck Freeman, your host. Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Follow us along on Twitter. Chuck Freeman, FREIMUND, Google, Spotify, Apple. We're on all those major downloads. Wherever you download your podcast, we are right on those platforms. There's millions of them out there. We're on all the major ones because we're the number one podcast on the internet for the reason that you guys have made us the number one Brewer podcast on the internet. But please go to YouTube. Go to YouTube, search Locked On Brewers, hit the subscribe button, please. I don't ask for a lot. Please follow us along on YouTube. We want to continue to grow our YouTube audience, which we've done immensely since taking over in March. Baseball winter meetings do kind of get the juices flowing a little bit of, turning the corner a little bit because, Lord knows that, if we live in Wisconsin here, like a lot of you guys do, and I know we got Brewer fans all over the place, which is great because, you move out of the state, you don't lose your Brewer fandom. I know if I moved to Arizona, which I'm not, but if I did, I'm not losing my Brewers fandom, a team that I followed all my life. Okay. I'm not going to go down to Arizona. I'm not going, but I'm saying if I did and also become an Arizona Diamondbacks, are you kidding me? Arizona Cardinals, ASU, no way. No. But I appreciate everybody all around the world. We hear from people all around the world here on Locked On Brewers on this podcast. Yeah, no deals for the Milwaukee Brewers. Josh Hader, his velo has dropped, and I think some teams are starting to get scared at that. The velo has dipped off in the last couple of years. But sounds like maybe the Phillies, 3 years, $45 million. That's one of the rumblings out there for Josh Hader. Either way, I hope he gets his deal. I just hope it's not again. I hope it's in the American League, actually. I do hope it's in the American League. Josh is a good guy. Don't want to face him. The velo's dropping, but there was a reason why a few years ago the Brewers didn't sign him long term. And I don't think the Brewers like to do this with their closers. And I think we're going to see that with Devin Williams as well. They're going to keep going to, on these 1-year contracts. They have to go to arbitration. But I think we're going to see some of the same things that happened with Josh Hader. And Josh, I think, got frustrated at it because he wanted a long-term deal. And I get it. He's making all-star teams. He's one of the best relievers in baseball, closers of baseball. And the Brewers would not give him a long-term contract. And I think which, some other teams have this as well, that you never know when a closer is going to lose his stuff. You just never know. And in this case, Hader's velo is starting to drop a little. Brewers did pass in the Rule 5 draft. They lost one player, Joe Gray, Rule 5 draft, they didn't pick anybody. Lost Victor Caratini to the Houston Astros. I would like to see Victor Caratini back. Now we're looking for a backup catcher. Some people want Jefferson Carroll to be the backup catcher, bring him up, start his service time right away. I think I want to start him off at AAA, and see how things go there. For my backup catcher, I think we need to go out and get ourselves a Victor Caratini, one of those, guys who've been around the league for a little bit, who, when he's catching, he's going to do a few things back there, mostly be good defensively and be able to hit a little bit. But I'd like to have Victor Caratini back. I mean, Houston liked him, and he went to the Houston Astros. But no deals for the Milwaukee Brewers. I waited until late Wednesday night. The Rule 5 draft always kind of signals the end of that baseball winter meetings are coming to a close. But I wanted to wait until late because you just never know. I didn't want to cut the podcast and think, oh, man, why didn't we get that move? So waited to the late hours here, and we'll be dropping this overnight. But yeah, and was hoping maybe something might materialize for the Milwaukee Brewers, but nothing has. Your YouTube comments, I read them all the time. We're going to get to those coming up next here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Brewers. Your host, Chuck Freeman. Good to have you along here, wrapping up the baseball winter meetings. Yeah, Soto goes to the Yankees. Shocking. Make a trade with San Diego. And Soto, they clear all that salary, but hey, they're the ones that took on salary. Now the Yankees will take on all that salary. We'll see how that works as the Yankees try to bail themselves out from, the ditch that they threw themselves in this past year. All right, let's get some of your YouTube comments. Oh, one other thing. Shohei Ohtani, he was taking some, there were some national people were taking some shots at him because he's doing the free agent tour. It's not Shohei Ohtani. It's the media that does that. And now my only thing is, my only disappointment in all that is, and Shohei can do the tour and all that. I don't care. It's just that we're never in the market for somebody like that. And because of the baseball rules, that's where I get ticked off. Yeah, Shohei can visit my frustration is, Shohei visits the Dodgers and he visits this team and he's, maybe going to the Yankees. Who knows? All these big markets are, can wine and dine him. And then we're, after the Kiner Falifas and just hoping that maybe we could win a bidding war with a couple of teams to get a utility infielder. Meanwhile, the Shohei is being paraded around by all the, because we can't have good things with the Milwaukee Brewers. We got to work for those things. We have to get it done in our farm system and just hope that the guy sticks around and sign him to major contracts like they did Jackson Churio the other day. All right, let's get to some of your messages here. Kelly says, am I wrong for wanting Weimer to stay? He's awfully quick and has shown flashes at the plate for fielding. Sure, he didn't have an explosive rookie year as Sal, but I think having the offseason such to progress it's not a bad thing to keep him. In other words, you're trying to say you want to keep Joey Weimer, or I'm trying to read I do pre-read these, and that one got a little clunky on me there. But yeah, Joey Weimer, I would, they got to fix him. All right. If he's going to be a part of this team and he's going to be a productive player, they have to fix his fundamentals. His fundamentals are all out of whack when he's at the plate, all out of whack. And he needs a hard restart. Whether it's going to happen here or another team is interested in doing that remains to be seen. Derek says, wouldn't moving Yelich to first base help all of this? I've been done plenty of times. It's been done plenty of times before for a lot of big leaguers and should prolong his career. Well, he is 32. Some guys could make the move over to first base. Some guys can't. I'd be okay with Yelich moving over to first base. I would be better trading Yelich and getting the salary off my book. I would. I just would. I think Yelich is just not going to be the player that we were hoping he was going to be, a generational player. We all thought that was going to happen. You know, he teased us, but I'm better off. And if we got to keep him, if we got to keep Yelich, let's move him to first base. And if we're not going to trade any of those young outfielders, Yelich has got to move to first base. He does. Not that he's bad defensively out there in the outfield, but I'm making room for my young guys out there. And he says, Yelich stayed pretty healthy last season, but he has missed a fair number of games the 2 years prior. And it's that back, too, that you're always worried about with him. You know, when that flared up a couple of times this past year. You know, it's like, when's that back going to flare up on Yelich once again? Where he's going to miss extended amount of time. And he has done that. If the Brewers would just rotate DH roles within their starters, taking turns according to who's pitching against them. If a player wants a day off of the field, also DH Contreras on his non-catching days. Well, they did. They do DH Contreras on his non-catching days, which wasn't the plan in the beginning, but he was their offensive MVP, and he couldn't take his bat out of the lineup because you had to have him in there. So when Caratini was catching, Contreras was playing first base. Weimer, Mitchell, Kyle says, Weimer, Mitchell, Taylor are all expendable. Frelick, I just see him making some major strides this year as our full-time right fielder. I love his old school contact hitting, scrappy style. Yeah, he's one of the guys who could go to the opposite field. You know, he's not worried about pulling the ball all the time like some of these guys are and yanking the ball out of ballpark. He's got a high baseball IQ, and I love that about Sal. And I know I get some heat because I would put Sal on my trade block for the right offer, but I'm really, and I think he's going to be a part of this team next year, unless the right move comes along. I think Sal's going to be a part, and I'm anxious to see how he makes that step up, you know, getting a full season on the Brewers roster, how he's going to make the step up. I'm excited for all these guys. Garrett Mitchell coming back, seeing, you know, if he does come back and he's not traded, you know, what he's like, because we saw some great things out of Garrett. We did. Remember the game-winning home run that he had at AmFam Field on an afternoon game. Yeah, I can get down with him for sure, and I'm excited to see after he rehabbed and he came back late in the year. Steve says, Steven Lapidus. It's got to be Larry Lapidus's kid. Steven Lapidus. I remember when the kid was born. Steve, I remember when you were born. That's how old I am, maybe, or how old you've gotten, I guess. As long as, Steve says, as long as Tyrone can't hit the ball, Taylor is gone from this team. That's a victory. Would it matter what we get back for Taylor? Not at all. He needs to go. And Larry Lapidus, by the way, longtime member of the media down in Milwaukee, wasn't on air, kind of a behind-the-scenes kind of guy, good guy, passed away a couple of years ago. Larry Lapidus. You guys in the media, obviously, who are watching this will know who that is. Jalen says, apparently they want to trade Terang because he's the second worst in offensively at bat. Let's trade him. Yeah, he's got to improve offensively. He went down to Nashville late in the year, came back up and worked on a few things down there and changed a few things with his batting stance and all that. But yeah, he's another guy. I'm excited because he's there defensively, offensively, bankrupt. But he's another guy who's got to make that next jump offensively, because we can't have a shortstop or a second baseman hitting 220 with a couple of home runs, but giving a stellar defense. That gets us another first-round exit out of the playoffs against the Arizona Diamondbacks after winning a division title. Ken says, are Frelick and Mitchell basically the same player? Well, I think Mitchell's got a little bit more speed. Both high baseball IQs, I want to say. In that area, I think Mitchell has the capability of hitting with a little bit more power. Both are solid, though. A or B. I wish Mitchell could have played the whole season and did not get hurt. I would like to see how that season was going to materialize for him. Had he played the whole season, we might not have seen much of Sal Frelick this year. Tyrone Taylor, by the way, Steven Lapidus, I'm with you. Tyrone Taylor, I did not even want to give the guy a tender him a contract. I was done with Tyrone Taylor. I know he hit well in September, but I was good with saying goodbye to him. And that's going to do it. Well, we wish we had some better news from baseball winter meetings. Nothing's news. As the old country song says, nothing's news. Juan Soto to the Yankees, Victor Caratini to Houston. And, while those things are happening and Shohei is being paraded around by different teams, Kiner Falefa, the Brewers are in the market for him. One of the teams in the market for the light hitting, yet great defensively, former Yankee shortstop. Follow us along, everybody, on YouTube. Go to YouTube, search Locked On Brewers, hit the bell there, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. I'll alert you every time we drop an episode. And of course, on Google, Spotify, Apple. And of course, please follow me on Twitter. Love reading all your comments. Chuck Freeman, Freimund. Hang in the Brewer fans. There's going to be some news. This is not going to be a complacent, dormant off season for the Milwaukee Brewers. There's going to be some things to happen. They need impact players. They have to get better. Talk to you tomorrow, everybody. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. So long, everybody.